Welcome to Fishing Fridays radio podcast, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top fishermen are using to catch more fish, dominate tournaments, and how you can get those same results. Here is your host, Mike Grady.
Today we have Harvey Horne here. Harvey is a Bassmaster Elite Series angler from Bella Vista, Arkansas. In 2017, Harvey finished second in the Bassmaster Open Angler of the Year points and qualified for the 2018 Elite Series. In 2018, Harvey won the Bassmaster Central Open on the Arkansas River and got invited for the 2019 Elite Series. Harvey is a three-time Bass Nation Regional qualifier. Welcome, Harvey Horne. How are you doing?
Just fine, Mike. It's a little cold up here in Bella Vista today, but looking forward to heading down to Florida on Friday.
Well, I can tell you, I think in the green room you told me it was about 15 degrees today.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I can tell you right now, in Daytona Beach, which is about 3 miles away from Pulaski, it is sunny and 60.
That's a warm and welcome sight when I get down there, I promise you.
Nice. So what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about how you actually started fishing, because obviously you compete with the best of the best in the Elite Series. But I think our listeners really want to know, how did you actually get started fishing and then fishing competitively?
You know, for me, it was a family thing. My granddad was kind of the first person to start me on the path of learning all the different aspects, and you know, he just gave me a boat and a pole and, you know, go catch us some fish, and that's kind of where it all started for me. That was, you know, bluegill and crappie and catfish and all that stuff. But you know, when I caught my first bass fishing by myself, probably, you know, 4 or 5 years old, I don't remember exactly. It was just, you know, the adrenaline hit me as soon as that happened. And from there, you know, I started reading Bassmasters magazines, Outdoor Life, you know, all of the information that I could just push into my brain about catching bass all across the country. It was, you know, later on in the early 90s when Brian Kirchhoff won the Bassmasters Classic after zeroing the year before. You know, I've been a fan ever since I can remember of watching the Bassmasters. As soon as we got cable when I was a young kid, that, you know, seeing an average guy that had an average job be able to go out and win on fishing's biggest stage, that was it. That was the point that I knew this is what I wanted to do for a career. You know, fast forward 20 years, I got married, you know, young couple, we were struggling, just didn't have the funds to go out and pursue what I wanted to do like I wanted to do it. And, you know, we worked our way up, worked through the Bass Nation ranks. When I moved to Arkansas, I joined a club, bought a little small bass boat. And from there, you know, just graduated up. You know, the next time I got one that was a little bigger, the next boat I got was a little bigger, and until I ended up in my Express X21. And, you know, getting that boat and going back to where I started in aluminum boats was beneficial for me, because it gave me an opportunity to get back in those shallow places that I couldn't go in the boats that I'd had before. So it kind of come full circle for me, and I didn't realize it at the time that Brian Kirchhoff started out the same way. So I have a lot in common with that guy, and looking towards the future, I'm extremely excited about everything that's going on with the building of the new brands that I'm working with, and, you know, helping to promote a company that's been around for, you know, 50 years. It's just an exciting time in my life, because I've worked all my life to get here, and, you know, just because we're blessed now with a job that my wife has. I don't have to work a full-time job. I've stayed at home with my kids, picking them up, taking them to school, the whole 9 yards. That opened the door for me on the weekends to where I could go out and fish every weekend, or, get a couple days in during the week. And that's been pretty much what's, kind of my full story. And, we're going into the Elite Series this year as a rookie. People look at me and this guy's 43 years old. He's not new to the game, but he's new to that level. Well, in 2017, I competed against, some of the best in the Opens and finished second in the points. So that opened my eyes to tell me, yes, you can go compete at the highest level with the highest competition that's out there. So I'm really excited. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, when it comes to competitive fishing, as from the different ranks you've gone through, and now that you're a rookie in the Elite Series, what's the biggest problem you found in competitive fishing?
The biggest problem that I've found, and I see it daily, is with the companies that I try to partner with. They get 300 calls weekly, 300 emails about people wanting free product. That's just not the way it works. You have to be willing to be a partner with that company. That way both entities can benefit from the partnership. You don't just call somebody up and say, hey man, I've got a YouTube channel. I need free products. It just doesn't work that way. And that's the biggest thing that I see right now that we have a problem with as professionals. When we go to these companies, we're going in and we're talking to them and trying to promote our brand and their brand at the same time. Well, it's hard enough for us to get in the door to begin with because all of those calls, all of those emails, oh, here's just another one of these fishing guys that wants free stuff. And that's not how we want to do our business. We want to go in and promote them as well as them promote us. That way it's beneficial to both parties, and both parties are mutually gaining out of the relationship. And go ahead.
Let me ask you, because you're there's kind of two different directions we're going here. One is, the competitive side of actually fishing, but then there's the business side. So let me ask you kind of a two-part question is, what have you learned at the highest level to compete on the fishing side, the actual competition side, and then what have you learned that's made you successful with the sponsors?
On the fishing side, my strength, my deal that I do that I believe makes me a little bit better than some of the other guys is my map study. And this is something that I learned years ago from one of the former professionals with the Elite Series. He would buy as many maps as he could get on any body of water they would go into. This was back before internet, before you could get on Google Earth. And he would sit down and go over those maps for hours and hours and hours. Well, with the tools we have now, with the great apps that are out there, the Fish Smart app by Humminbird is the one that I use most, not just because I have Humminbird graphs in my boat. I started using this app as soon as it came out because it allows me to set waypoints, to transfer those waypoints onto my graphs, and utilize it as a learning tool. I can find those little out-of-the-way shallow places that I can get my boat into that nobody else can. That's been my catalyst to make me a little bit better than everybody else. It's just the amount of time I spend studying. And on the professional side, on the business side of everything, Derek Hudnoff's been instrumental for me. He's a couple years younger than I am, but he's been doing it longer. So when I have questions or when I have concerns, I'm not afraid to call him. And he's a great piece of great value to me because he's made mistakes and he's trying to help me keep from making some of those mistakes, so to speak. So reaching out to people like that, Dale Hightower's my travel partner. We talk all the time. We're both going to be running express boats this year, which is great. He's also helped me learn and work on things that I didn't know coming in, because I've always been that guy that I'm self-sustaining. If I had the money, I would go fish. If I didn't, I'd stay at home. And I've never had to garner those relationships with other companies until now. So I'm new at the business side, even though I've been around the fishing side for a long time.
Gotcha. Well, all right. So let's talk, about the fishing side of it. Is when you're in a tournament, when you're actually at the lake, do you put together a plan to work that lake?
I really do, and it's all about timing. Seasonal patterns that the fish are in. My favorite time of year is pre-spawn, right before they go on to bed. That's my favorite time because I feel like I can go to a body of water, and within a half day's time, I can narrow down enough places that I should be able to do well on those 2, 3, 4 places. Where I do struggle is late in the summer when they're offshore, and that's just because I'm not that guy that's going to be out there offshore all the time. I know there's events this year that I'm going to have to do that, and luckily the main event that we're going to be offshore fishing is on Lake Fork, and I've been there quite a few times. I'm familiar with it, so I feel like on that body of water I've got a little bit of an edge. Maybe not over a Keith Combs that's already won big tournaments there, but I've got an edge over some of the other anglers in the field that haven't been to that body of water before.
So basically you're looking for a good points day, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to win. If I feel like I'm not going somewhere to win a tournament, I shouldn't be going there in the first place. I'm that competitive once I take off in the morning. Once I shut down on that first spot, it's all about getting the job done. And I do anything that I think I should to make sure that it happens.
Well, when you're out there, I mean, obviously, you're planning, you want to win, you've got the competitive drive, but what's the hardest part about implementing your plan on any given weekend or any given body of water?
We all struggle with making the decisions at the right time to stick with the plan that you've came up with during practice, or to abandon that plan and change to doing something different just because the conditions change. That's usually the biggest struggle that I have, is when do I stop doing what I'm doing and move to something else that might be better because the conditions are changing. Say a storm front blows in, we get cloud cover. Do I change from dragging a jig to throwing a spinnerbait? It's those changes during the day's time, and the fishing can change by hour. If we get a cold front move in, then granted, we're going to have to slow down and work everything a lot more methodically. But if it's a warm rain or, a warm front pushes in from the south or something, and you get cloud cover and the conditions are right with the wind, a lot of times you should pick up a spinnerbait or a crankbait and cover a little bit more water. Those decisions are what separate the good anglers from the great anglers. And it's because they've had a lot more time on the water to know exactly when they should make those changes.
Can you talk a little bit about when you've got your plan and you're starting to make these changes? What sort of successes are you looking for so you're on the right track?
For me, it's usually the size of fish. If I make a change through the day, I might make a change and pick up one bait over another one and fish that bait in a certain spot for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Well, if I don't catch anything in that 10 or 15 minutes, I go back to what I was doing to begin with. But a lot of times that I've seen in that 15-minute span, if I can catch one or two fish that are larger than, say, the fish that I've been catching earlier in the day, that tells me I'm on the right track and I need to stick with the change that I have made.
So I guess, for those of us that are super competitive and we're always analyzing data, are you keeping all this in your head? Are you, is this a feel thing, or do you have a regimented schedule and you're writing down notes during the tournament?
I have never been that guy to write down notes until now. I've literally got a notebook that's going to be in the boat with me at all times that, I'm going to have to go back and write those notes down. Say I catch a 5-pounder off a stump that's in the back of a flat with a creek running beside it. I will write down all the details about that one fish, for future reference. Because in the Elite Series, a lot of times we'll go back and revisit these places again, and I can go back to my notes from 2019 and say, well, I caught a 5-pounder here, here, and here, and those will give me places to go check during practice to see if there's new fish moved in there, or possibly, if those places still hold fish.
Well, let me ask you, in your career up until this point, what have you learned that's made you better since you started fishing tournaments? Is there any one thing?
Yeah, for me, it's being away from the crowd. That's the thing that I've learned. To make me a better angler, I need to be somewhere that, there can be other boats around, but I don't want to see 20 or 30 or 40 boats. If I see 1 or 2 boats, that's okay. I want to be that guy that's out there doing his own thing, and I don't want to worry about what everybody else is doing, because that's, a lot of times they're doing stuff that I'm not necessarily as good as other anglers. So I want to go do what I'm best at, and that's been my biggest strength so far in my career is just going out and fishing the way I want to fish and not worrying about what everybody else is doing.
Kind of one of them things where it's you against the fish, not you against your competitors, huh?
Well, in our sport, we're not necessarily ever fishing against the competitors, even though it's there. It's something that's always going to be on your mind. Am I as good as this guy? Am I as good as that guy? But in all reality, it's you against the fish. That's the biggest thing. You have to go out and find the 5 biggest fish each day. You have to put those 5 biggest fish in the live well and carry them back to the stage. And that's all on you. It really is, unless there's somebody that moves into your spot through the day, you're never really necessarily competing against the other anglers.
Gotcha. Well, lastly, as we come to the end of our interview here, I want to ask you, and I always ask these 2 questions of everybody that I interview is, number 1, what's your most successful fishing secret?
My most successful fishing secret is the simple fact that something that I learned a long time ago from a friend of mine that used to fish Central Texas a lot. When you're fishing for big fish, when you think you're fishing slow down some more. That's probably about the best thing that I could advise for anybody that wants to go out and catch big fish, is just slow down, be methodical, and that's probably going to help you catch bigger fish than anything else.
Wow, that's great advice. Now, second question. What's your most successful, or what's your favorite lure or bait?
For me, that's something that changes every couple years because new things come out. You get better with different techniques. Probably my thing that right now that I'm most well known for, and what I've won the Arkansas River tournament on is a particular lure that's Big Bite Baits makes. It's the Big Bite Fighting Frog in the 5-inch size. It's a big profile crawfish imitating bait, and I dragged that on the bottom pretty quick. I said slow down. That doesn't necessarily mean slow the bait down. It means slow yourself down and make sure you're covering every piece of water. And with that technique that I use, that's probably what I'm most comfortable with in my hand.
Gotcha. Harvey, I want to thank you for a lot of great information, but I know there's a business side to this. So, Harvey, is there anything that you want to promote? And if there is, tell our listeners what it is and how they can get it.
The three biggest things that I have going for me right now is the partnerships I have with a great family of folks down in the Express Boats. They've went way over and beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. Yamaha Motors, they've been extremely great to me so far. And of course the great people at Humminbird and Minn Kota. That new Ultrek is extremely out of this world. If you haven't been out of a boat that's got the mega down imaging built into the trolling motor, you've got to go check that out. The C-deck material that's in my boat makes me fish a little bit better through the day because I can stand up more comfortably. And, of course, big bite baits, Sunline is something that I depend on to make sure I get the fish in the boat. And, my friends down at, Heavy Sack Rods that make all my rods that I use, those are the main companies that make it possible for me to do what I do.
Harvey, that's a lot of great information. I want to thank you for being on our show.
Yeah, Mike.
And Harvey, good luck in the Elite Series this year. Hope you have a lot of success.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Fishing Fridays Radio Podcast. If you'd like to be notified anytime we release a new episode, just hit subscribe and like this episode. Or you can subscribe over at fishingfridaysradio.com. In addition to that, we would love to send you a free gift. You can find that free gift at giveaway.digandanchors.com. Thanks again for listening.